Hello and greetings, YouTube. How are y'all doing? Thank you for coming to my channel and coming to this video. Since this is, I think, really the first video on my channel, I am gonna just briefly introduce myself before I get into the Law of One and all that stuff. So my name is Goddess Cami, aka Camille Talicia. My business is The Intentional Goddess, which is really centered around supporting women leaders and entrepreneurs in taking a holistic approach to their business and to their lives, in which they are working on their personal development, their personal growth, their personal healing, and allowing that to apply and integrate into their business and their entrepreneurship journey and their effectiveness as leaders. There's more to it, but that's a video for another day. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to my website, www.theintentionalgoddess.com. So that's that. Maybe one day I'll make like a real video about all the other things that I do. But for now, I felt really strongly compelled to create a video series for the Law of One, because I think this is just like a really dope piece of writing. It's a couple of books, and at the time of recording this video right now, I am about halfway into book 2, and I've gone through book 1 like 2.5 times. And there are other videos on here at YouTube about Law of One. Erin Abke has a really good series about breaking down the Law of One. There is a lady, Pamela something or the other, she has the text to audio of it, so like you can just hear like an AI read the book, and she chats a little bit about it. And I did enjoy, like, I appreciated that because it helped me listen to some of the things again after having read them. And so, kind of just getting the information multiple times. And so I kind of felt like it would be cool to do something like that as well. But in smaller chunks, and maybe having a little bit more of a discussion and breakdown of the understanding of it, and just to get a different other additional perspective of it, because I think that this piece of work and the information and the concepts inside of it are so important that and complex, that multiple people can have conversations about it in this space. And the more people who have access to it and find it, I think will be really, really, it we need it right now. As of recording this, it's September 2020, and we are just going through a lot, especially here in America, and there's so much. So let's get into it a little bit so I can explain a little bit about what it is if you just happened upon this video. But I feel like if you came here, you probably know a little bit about what the Law of One is. But the Law of One is essentially a channeled, as a book, let me say this, the Law of One, the book, or the book series, is the transcripts of a channeled communication with a soul memory complex, I think I have that backwards right now, called Ra, that identifies himself as Ra. And it is Don Elkins. Let me get these names for you. So essentially it was a group of they were really like scientists that were studying, or was it scientists or engineers? And they were studying meditation and the effectiveness of it. And somehow they ended up, like, they created meditation groups, were doing all these meditations. And I think they had other channelings and stuff that happened prior to them contacting Ra. But as the meditation group continued to become more cohesive and work together and get things more in alignment and all of that, one of the participants, her name is Carla, and she actually was not a scientist. She was like a student volunteer that ended up staying on and helping support the work afterwards. And so Carla was able to make contact with Ra, the entity Ra. And so this particular book is a transcript of all of the channelings that Carla had come through her, that were facilitated with questions by Don Elkins and Jim McCarty. So, yes, the book is Law of One. You can go to, I think it's thelawofone.org. You can find the transcript yourself. There they have it available. It's like free PDFs for you to download. But what I decided to do is initially I'm going to try and read these. Not try. I'm fully capable of reading. I'm going to read them. Hopefully it's not too much. I got a little water here because my throat is already feeling dry. And so we'll read and then talk about them. And so what I'm thinking, they have it in sessions. And so how I'd like to do it, I'm not going to go through the introduction, which kind of gives the backstory, and I encourage you to go through and read that yourself, because it does talk about this. Okay, I'll read this one section that I just happened upon. This is in the introduction, and it is page 5. I'm not actually sure who's speaking in this, but I think this is good because it gives a little more context to who Ra is before we get into the conversation. So our research group uses what I prefer to call tuned trance telepathy, to communicate with an extraterrestrial race called Ra. We use the English language because it is known by Ra. In fact, Ra knows more of it than I do. Ra landed on Earth about 11,000 years ago as a sort of extraterrestrial missionary with the objective of helping Earthman with his mental evolution. Failing in his attempt, Ra retreated from the Earth's surface but continued to monitor activities closely on this planet. For this reason, Ra is highly informed about our history, languages, etc. Probably the most difficult thing to understand about Ra is its nature. Ra is a sixth density social memory complex. What did I say? Social. Yeah, social memory complex. Since Earth is near the end of the third density cycle of evolution, this means that Ra is 3 revolutionary cycles ahead of us. In other words, Ra's present state of evolution is millions of years in advance of Earthman's. It is not surprising that Ra had difficulty communicating with Earthman 11,000 years ago. The same problem still exists in our present enlightened time. At this writing, we have completed over 100 sessions of experimental communications with Ra. This approximate 300,000 words of information has suggested to me a possibly more adequate scientific paradigm. Only time and future will serve to validate and expand this paradigm. Okay, not going to go through the rest of that. They talk a little bit about UFOlogy, like they were studying extraterrestrials and all of that. And this channeling was done in the 80s. Let me get you the exact date. Okay, so remember I told you they were studying meditation and all of that? They began first in 1962. And this channeling with Ra happened in 1981. I might be a little more prepared next time with notes. Sorry, guys. I just really want, sometimes you just want to start something because if you don't start it, you won't do it. And so that is why I'm here today, just a little bit ill-prepared. I just have my tablet, very old Samsung tablet that I downloaded the PDFs on. And so we're going to get into this. So we're going to begin with session 1. And as a preface, what I will say is that when they first were communicating with Ra, they were kind of just asking questions, trying to get some clarity, I think understanding on who Ra was. And you may hear me refer to Ra as a he because the name is a little masculine. But note that Ra is a social memory complex, which, to explain what that means, is essentially, Ra is a group of people, a race of people, a planetary race. Like, let's, for comparison's sake, Earth at some point will eventually become a social memory complex in which all of us will, according to Ra, we will ascend, enlighten, grow to a point where we are so connected with each other that we now communicate through telepathy, and we all have access to each other's memories, knowledge, information, conversation, experience, all of that. So at any given time, I could speak on your behalf, you could speak on my behalf to anybody else, because we are now like one. And so they're called social memory complexes. And so Ra is that. And so that is why oh, this is kind of cool. So this is gonna, that'll be another session. They have photographs that I forgot about, and so I'll do that in another video because it's a lot, and I need to get to session 1 so we can begin. All right, here we go. 10 minutes into the video, you've gotten your introduction, you understand who Ra is, and honestly, as we go through, you'll understand more. So my intention for today's video is to go through at session 1 and session 2, and we'll see how that feels. And then we'll chat a little bit about what came up and how to understand it. And I will say in the first, I would say the first maybe like 10 sessions or so, we'll get some information about things. And as they continue to speak with Ra, either Jim or Don, they really start getting a format and a system for how they ask the questions to kind of get some evolutionary information, wow, I'm totally blanking on the word right now, in calendar order, time order. I can't even think of it right now. The word, what is happening? It's late. So some of the stuff will be more organized in the future, and so some of this stuff may get repeated. Like they kind of ask questions for Ra to expound on. And so if you don't get something, the reason I'm saying this is if you hear something in these first sessions that doesn't necessarily make full sense to you, there may be a time where it gets explained more. So keep listening. Wow. Took us a minute to get here. All right. The Law of One, Book 1, Session 1. Date, January 15th, 1981. I gotta be honest, you may not get video after this of me reading because that feels kind of boring. Okay. Ra. And also, every time Ra communicates, they start with I am Ra. Sometimes I might read it, sometimes I might not, because I found when I'm reading myself, sometimes I completely skip over it. And so if that happens, that's just human error. But know that every time they begin an initial answer, they start with I am Ra. Okay, so session 1. Ra. I am Ra. I've not spoken through this instrument before. We had to wait until she was precisely tuned as we send a narrow band vibration. We greet you in the love and in the light of our infinite creator. We have watched your group. We have been called to your group, for you have a need for the diversity of experiences and channeling which go with a more intensive, or as you might call it, advanced approach to the system of studying the pattern of the illusions of your body, your mind, and your spirit, which you call seeking the truth. We hope to offer you a somewhat different slant upon the information which is always and ever the same. At this time, we would be glad to attempt to speak to any subject or question which those entities in the room may have potential use in the requesting. Questioner, do you have a specific purpose, and if so, could you tell us something of what your purpose is? Ra, I am Ra. We communicate now. We are those who are of the Law of One. In our vibration, the polarities are harmonized. The complexities are simplified. The paradoxes have a solution. We are one. That is our nature and our purpose. We are old upon your planet and have served with varying degrees of success in transmitting the Law of One, of unity, of singleness to your peoples. We have walked your planet. We have seen the faces of your peoples. However, we now feel the great responsibility of staying in the capacity of removing the distortions and powers that have been given to the Law of One. We will continue in this until, shall we say, your cycle is appropriately ended. If not this one, then the next. We are not a part of time and thus are able to be with you in any of your times. Does this give you enough information from which to extract our purpose, my brother? Questioner, yes, thank you. Ra, I am Ra. We appreciate your vibrations. Is there another query? Questioner, I've heard of the name Ra in connection with the Egyptians. Are you connected with that Ra in any way? Ra, I am Ra. Yes, the connection is congruency. May we elucidate? What do you not understand? You like that? Their vocabulary. Masterful. Questioner, could you give me a little more detail about your role your role with the Egyptians? Ra, I am Ra. The identity of the vibration Ra is our identity. We as a group, or what you would call a social memory complex, made contact with a race of your planetary kind, which you call Egyptians. Others from our density made contact at the same time in South America, and the so-called lost cities were their attempts to contribute to the Law of One. We spoke to one who heard and understood and was in a position to decree the Law of One. However, the priests and peoples of that era quickly distorted our message, robbing it of the, shall we say, compassion with which unity is informed by its very nature. Since it contains all, it cannot abhor any. When we were no longer able to have appropriate channels through which to enunciate the Law of One, we removed ourselves from the now hypocritical position which we had allowed ourselves to be placed in. Other myths, shall we say, having more to do with polarity and the things of your vibration that are complex, again took over in that particular society complex. Does this form a sufficient amount of information, or could we speak further? Is there another query? Questioner, and they made a note, the question was lost because the questioner was sitting too far from the tape recorder to be recorded, so we don't know exactly what was asked. Ra, I am Ra. Consider, if you will, that the universe is infinite. This has yet to be proven or disproven, but we can assure you that there is no end to yourselves, your understanding, what you would call your journey of seeking, or your perceptions of the creation. That which is infinite cannot be many, for manyness is a finite concept. To have infinity, you must identify or define the infinity as unity. Otherwise, the term does not have any referent or meaning. In an infinite creator, there is only unity. You have seen simple examples of unity. You have seen the prism which shows all colors stemming from the sunlight. This is a simplistic example of unity. In truth, there is no right or wrong. There is no polarity, for all will be, as you would say, reconciled at some point in your dance through the mind-body-spirit complex, which you amuse yourself by distorting in various ways at this time. This distortion is not in any case necessary. It is chosen by each of you as an alternative to understanding the complete unity of thought which binds all things. You are not speaking of similar or somewhat like entities or things. You are everything, every being, every emotion, every event, every situation. You are unity. You are infinity. You are love light, light love. You are. This is the Law of One. May we enunciate in more detail? Questioner, no. Ra, I am Ra. Is there another query at this time? Questioner, can you comment on the coming planetary changes in our physical reality? Ra, I am Ra. I preferred to wait till this instrument had again reached a proper state of depth of singleness or one-pointedness before we spoke. The changes are very, very trivial. We do not concern ourselves with the conditions which bring about harvest. Questioner, if an individual makes efforts to act as a catalyst in general to increase the awareness of planetary consciousness, is he of any aid in that direction, or is he doing nothing but acting upon himself? Ra, I am Ra. We shall answer your question in two parts, both of which are important equally. Firstly, you must understand that the distinction between yourself and others is not visible to us. We do not consider that a separation exists between the consciousness-raising efforts of the distortion which you project as a personality and the distortion that you project as another personality. Thus, to learn is the same as to teach, unless you are not teaching what you are learning, in which case you have done you/them little good. This understanding should be pondered by your mind-body-spirit complex, as it is a distortion which plays a part in your experiences at this nexus. To turn to the second part of our response, may we state our understanding, limited though it is. Group individuated consciousness is that state of sharing understanding with the other distortions of mind-body-spirit complexes which are within the evident reach of the mind-body-spirit complex individual or group. Thus, we are speaking to you and accepting both our distortions and your own in order to enunciate the laws of creation, more especially the Law of One. We are not available to many of your peoples, for this is not an easily understood way of communication or type of philosophy. However, our very being is hopefully a poignant example of both the necessity and the near hopelessness of attempting to teach. Each of those in this group is striving to use, digest, and diversify the information which we are sending this instrument into the channels of the mind-body-spirit complex without distortion. The few whom you will illuminate by sharing your light are far more than enough reason for the greatest possible effort. To serve one is to serve all. Therefore, we offer the question back to you to state that indeed it is the only activity worth doing, to learn, teach, or to teach, learn. There is nothing else which is of aid in demonstrating the original thought except your very being, and the distortions that come from the unexplained, inarticulate, or mystery-clad being are many. Thus, to attempt to discern and weave your way through as many group mind, body, spirit distortions as possible among your peoples in the course of your teaching is a very good effort to make. We can speak no more valiantly of your desire to serve. May we speak in any other capacity upon this subject? Questioner, will you be available for communication? Can we call on you in the future? I am Ra. I am Ra. We have good contact with this instrument because of her recent experiences with trance. She is to be able to communicate our thoughts in your future. However, we advise care in disturbing the channel for a few moments, and then the proper procedure for aiding an instrument who has, to some extent, the need of re-entering the mind-body-spirit complex which the instrument has chosen for the life experience of this time-space. Do you understand how to nurture this instrument? Questioner, no. Could you explain it? Ra, we suggest first a brief period of silence, then the repetition of the instrument's vibratory complex of sound in your density, which you call name. Repeat until an answer is obtained. Then the laying on of the hands at the neck region for a brief period, so that the instrument may recharge batteries which are not, shall we say, full of the essence of this particular field at this time. And finally, a gift of water into which the love of all present has been given. This will restore this entity, for her distortions contain great sensitivity towards the vibrations of love, and the charged water will effect comfort. Do you now understand? Questioner, not completely. Ra, I am Ra. We search your mind to find the vibration nickname. It is the vibration from which you contains it is the vibration from you which contains the largest amount of what you would call love. Others would call this entity first name. The charging of the water is done by those present placing their hands over the glass and visualizing the power of love entering the water. This will charge that very effective medium with those vibrations. This instrument is, at this time, quite fatigued. However, her heart is such that she continues to remain open to us and useful as a channel. This is why we have spent the time, space, explaining how the distortions of what you may call fatigue may be ameliorated. Under no circumstance should this instrument be touched until she has responded to her name. I do not wish to take this instrument beyond her capacity for physical energy. It grows low. Therefore, I must leave this instrument. I leave you in the glory and peace of unity. Go forth in peace, rejoicing in the power of the one Creator. I am Ra. Okay, so what I want to do actually is we're just going to break down this session because I forgot how much they went into in this one session, which is just the beginning. Okay, so we kick it off. Ra is explaining, hey, we've been checking y'all out. We've been watching. We've been here long time. Long time. Thousands of years. It would appear that this is the same Ra that the Egyptians celebrated as the sun god, and that when they came down with the Egyptians, they were trying to teach the law of one, which we're really going to get into maybe the next session. I'm not sure which session, but they're really going to explain exactly what the law of one is. But just as a quick overview, because they did talk about how the law of one is of unity and singleness, and they were talking about infinity being unity. And so the law of one essentially is that we are all, the way I like to explain it in layman terms is that each of us are fragments of the one Creator. Like, we are all fragments of the same thing. And so the law of one essentially is saying that we need to see each other as one. I need to see you as me. You need to see you. I need to see you as me. You need to see me as you. You need to see your sister as you. She needs to see you as her, so on and so forth. You need to see your quote unquote enemies as parts of you as well, as you, not even parts of you, as you, because together, you, I, we, they are all essentially really one thing. It's like the cells of your body are individual cells, but they all are your body. And so we are individual cells of a larger body, which is actually the infinite creator, um, which most people call God. Yes. Okay. So that is what we'll be talking about. So Ra was basically saying that when they came, they were teaching the law of one, they were teaching unity, and they're going to share a little bit more about some of the specific things that they taught and shared with the Egyptians. Apparently there were other social memory complexes that came down. I don't remember if they didn't share the names in this session. I don't remember if they share them in the future. Other social memory complexes like them who are of higher densities also came down in different other areas, South America specifically, and shared the law of one to their understanding. And what happened is that it was distorted by the people who learned it. Did they make mention of the priests here? Yes. The priests, the priests and peoples of that era quickly distorted our message, robbing it of the, shall we say, compassion with which unity is informed by its very nature. So, I think that's where they're talking about like the rules and the regulations and all of that usually comes inside of religious systems in a means of being powerful and utilizing power or having power over other people. And so it got distorted. And I think, no, not I think, I know, because they talk about it in the future, that is why Ra is still around and monitoring and coming back to speak through Carla at this time, is to help clean up that distortion, because that distortion of the law of one has like lived on through various religions that are now still in existence to this day and still in structure. So yes, there's that piece. We talked about the infinite universe and how everybody is one. And I wish we knew exactly what the question was. The other thing I really want to talk about is where they say, in truth, there is no right or wrong. There's no polarity, for all will be, as you would say, reconciled at some point through our existence as entire, eternal, infinite beings. And that is so important because, especially in religion, as we're talking about, there's always the good and bad, right versus evil, good versus evil, right versus wrong, sinner versus saint, hell and heaven conversation, with all this polarity, with all this division, with all this judgment. And they're saying, really, there is none. It's all just ways for the creator to know itself in the end. And it's all two sides of the same coin. So, and they're going to be talking about that more as well. So it's so funny because I totally forgot that this was what the beginning was about. And like I said, I've gone through this a couple times now. And I forgot that they jumped right in initially. So some of the other things I wanted to touch on for this video, mind, body, spirit complex is what basically, whenever you hear that, they're talking about humans in third density, because we have our mind, we have the body, and then the spirit, which is our eternal soul, our eternal spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it. And they're all in this one complex, which is our soul case. I heard that there's a book that I was reading, and the character said, I almost jumped out of my soul case. And I was like, that is such a beautiful name for the body. So that is what that is. The word distortion comes up in various ways. One of the ways that they talk about distortion, well, the concepts they use it as is in our third density experience, in which we have the distortion of separation, in which we don't see each other as what our truth, as our true existence, as truly actually, wow. Third density distortion of separation, in which we don't see each other as one, where we don't see that we are all pieces of the same one thing. And so that is one that I was thinking about, that I wanted to make note of. Again, you are everything, every being, every emotion, every event, every situation. You are unity, you are infinity, you are love light, and light love. This is the law of one. So that is essentially what the law of one is. But as they continue through the book, we will get a better understanding of exactly what that means. And the only other thing I wanted to talk about for right now that I thought was really important was the thing about teach learning and learn teaching, where essentially they were saying that the question was about the planetary things, but I feel like Rob went and made it what it needed to be about, which is that if you are learning something, you need to be teaching it, and as you teach something, you learn it. So that's why they call it learn, teach, or teach, learn. And honestly, as I kept reading through this, that was part of the other reason why I decided to do this video series, is because as I'm learning the law of one and learning how to integrate, to understand it and understand all of the information in it and integrate it in order to support me in continuing to learn it, I need to begin teaching it, teaching what I do understand, what I can grasp, and sharing it. And so I am fulfilling my part of that learn, teach, learn experience and activity and service to others, to you all, which is essentially to me as well. Isn't that so? It's beautiful when you really start to think about it, like what I'm doing for you, I'm really doing for me. Excuse me. I'm also doing for me at the same time. So it's really beautiful. And then you heard just like the little tips that they were saying for Carla on keeping her comfortable and her vital strengths high and all of that, her energy high essentially. And you'll hear that after almost every session they ask, is there anything we can do to make the instrument more comfortable? Carla is the instrument, because when she's in the trance, I believe her consciousness is either maybe she's astral projecting, so she's not present, or maybe it's suppressed so that Ra can take over and really be speaking clearly and in full control. So we know it's not Carla at all. And the last thing, this is the last thing, and it really was just about the instructions for her, where they were talking about speaking love and light into the water. Speaking love, I don't even think they said light. They said gift of water, which the love of all present has been given. And so they're literally saying, visualize love going into the water, and that will be impactful enough that it will actually affect change in her body and give her the energy that she needs to restore herself, because she has allowed herself to be used as an instrument. And so if you take nothing else away from this first video, besides the fact that we are all one, take away how powerful your intentions and your energy can be. And I encourage you to do this with everything that I think this is where the concept of like saying grace and praying over your food, number one, it was about giving gratitude for what you have, but number two, imagine like when you're blessing your food, blessing each meal, blessing each drink, you're giving it some love energy, you're giving it some light energy, and you're just making it that much more powerful and restorative and nourishing to your body. So challenge, go drink a glass of water. I'm about to bless my water right here. Give it some love energy, and just see if it feels any different when you drink it. See if you feel any more quenched or rejuvenated or revitalized after you drink it. Enjoy your love energy. We're going to be complete. We're a little bit over 30 minutes. I imagine that the next videos, maybe we'll be able to get 2 sessions in one, because I won't have to do the introduction and all of that. We'll just jump right in. But I am going to do like a little bit of the conversation afterwards. And yeah, so thanks for watching. Obviously this channel is new, but I do intend to at least go through book one, and do all of this. So for the notification for the next video, go ahead and subscribe and hit the like button wherever these things are. Do all of that so that you can stay in the know. Comment below. Let me know if you even heard of the Law of One before, if you agree with how I've been sharing, interpreting things, and from this first session, and if you have any questions, because I know, like, literally this was one session out of many that we are going to be going through, but it's a lot of information each time, and it's a lot of new information for us to grasp. So I'm excited to learn, teach, learn with you all, be in community with all of you who are introduced to the Law of One, and start applying the concept and integrating the concept of being one with each other into your lives. So I'll see you guys next time. Love, light, and shine. Camille.